So let's summarize a little bit about chapters 3 and 4 from yesterday. Chapter 3 is called On the Underground Railroad. In this chapter, Tommy and his father were bringing Jeff and his family to the next location on the Underground Railroad, which it was the river. Big Jeff is kind of explaining to Tommy why he ran away and how bad it is with being a slave. And then his father at the bottom is explaining that the Underground Railroad isn't a real railroad with steam engines and cars. It's a secret group of people who believe slavery is wicked. So what I want to know from you, though, is why is it called the Underground Railroad? Why wouldn't they just say it's the route to freedom or the route for slaves? Think about that for 1 minute. Well, in knowing what people talk about, if they were to accidentally use those words to the wrong person, then they could get in a lot of trouble. Using it as the Underground Railroad is a secretive way to talk about something in case somebody overhears you talking about it. People who didn't know about the Underground Railroad and what it actually was weren't aware of what was going on. On this page, it talked about conductors. Conductors are the people who are kind of in charge, such as father in this case, of the family of trying to get them from one location to the other. The passengers, just like a passenger rides the train, were the slaves who were escaping. Okay? Being valuable meaning that these slaves were actually worth money. So they were owned by people whose farm they worked on. So as they're traveling along in this chapter, they're underneath hay. Why would Big Jeff and his family have to be traveling under hay at night? Well, they're running away. If they were caught, they would not only would Big Jeff and his family get in trouble, but father and Tommy and his mother would also get in serious trouble. So, in chapter 4, there was a little bit of suspense. So if I go back up here, they have to find the boat. As they go to the boat, father leaves Tommy with a wagon while he walks into the darkness to get the boat. It says chapter 4 is the searching party. Here is the encounter that he had with a U.S. Marshal. As I think about Tommy's encounter and how he acted, if the U.S. Marshal is talking to him and saying, "These are my men, we're going to search the wagon, we're looking for runaways," and Tommy's acting really innocent. He says runaways, and the U.S. Marshal describes and then talks about how he says, "You wouldn't have them hidden in that wagon, would you, boy?" Uh-oh. There's the suspense right there. That makes me really, really scared for Tommy, because in that split instance, his face could give everything away. It actually says Tommy's mouth was dry. This tells me that he was extremely nervous in thinking about what could happen if he gives this location or what he's actually doing away. So he has to be really quick on his feet. Here's what he says in response. "You won't find anything but hay in this wagon." Well, Tommy is really thinking here, just kind of being quick-witted. And the U.S. Marshal continues about searching. And now Tommy is actually getting scared. It shows that. But his personality seems like he's a little bit mischievous and already thinks quickly on his feet about things that could happen or things that he actually would do to have fun. Because right here, he's going to say, "I better tell you all about it. You see, I'm Tommy Fuller and I'm running away myself." What a quick thinker he was to be able to explain that he's the one running away when really this isn't true. He's just saying it so he can divert the attention or change the attention from the marshal of finding the slaves to Tommy actually being the one who's quote unquote running away. And then the US Marshal makes the connection as to who Tommy is. And he starts talking about what this boy did, what Tommy did at church. So Tommy just joins in and talks about this fuss that he made fishing for geese at church the other week. And Tommy continues talking about his father. This creates such a diversion from Tommy and the slaves that are in the wagon that the US Marshal completely forgets about what could be in that wagon. He actually says, "We're chasing the wrong wagon, boys. You better go home to your pa, Tommy, and take your licking." What does that mean? And take your licking? Well, it actually means kind of take your consequences, or sometimes, kids kind of get spanked sometimes, possibly. So it just means take your consequences. And then Tommy follows through with, "Yes, sir." And the US Marshal makes a joke about fishing for geese. Wow, Tommy's quick thinking really drove the suspense in the story to a climax and then a few moment for me, because I was really, really worried about Tommy at this point, because he was really in a pickle if that US Marshal was going to look in that wagon. Chapter 5 is called Over the River. This is where Jeff and his family will actually be able to get into the boat. As they set off, they say goodbye. And then in chapter 6, there is some meaningful conversation going on between the father and Tommy. It's called Lawbreakers. Father is explaining to Tommy that what he did today with Tommy was actually breaking the law. I want you to think about, how is what Father and Tommy were doing breaking the law? And explain that to me after you read this segment.